Hi, I'm Nick. Welcome to Beginner's Night, and thank you for actually responding, because last Beginner's Night it was very quiet. But yeah, Beginner's Night on bug bounties with 2 spaces in between the on and the bug. Oh well. Yes. I do not pay out bounties. So I'm Nic Losby. I also go by Blurb Dust, and this time I've changed random person that likes breaking things to random person that likes breaking things and getting paid for it. If you know me, I'm probably your TA. So what are bug bounties? Cynically, they are a very cheap way for a company to get numerous people to pen test their systems. Optimistically, it's a great legal way to hone your skills and to learn new skills while potentially making money. Disclaimer, don't go into these programs expecting money. Vendors do not like that. Vendors will spite you. I have examples. I will show you them. So here are some places offering bug bounties. HackerOne, BugCrowd, Integree, I only have heard of it, I've never used it, and Open Bug Bounty, where it seems very sketchy. You find a bug on some random person's website, you refer them to this website, and then they update whenever they patch that bug. But you never had permission from them in the first place. So it's not so good. You should always have permission before trying to test someone's stuff. And HackerOne and BugCrowd give you basically unlimited scope, and they will definitely go to bat for you if a vendor tries to sue you. Certain vendors, such as ICANN, specifically outlines in their scope program, we will never try to sue you. If we do try to sue you, you will get off scot-free. You are fine. So that is always nice to see. So, bug bounties. What are you even doing? What are you looking for? Well, honestly, you're trying to go for the OWASP top 10. The injection, broken authentication, see if you can bypass password fields, sensitive data exposure, if you can find people's passwords in plain text or just hashes of them, XML, external entities, or XXE. If they have an XML document being loaded, can you load something else from the internet? So one great example is with Ghidra, if they're running it on Windows, you could have it authenticate over SMB to your own machine. So something like NTLM Relayer would come in handy for that. You could just get their NTLM v2 hash, and then you could crack that. Now you have their password. Broken access controls, security misconfigurations, basically if someone forgot to disable public write on their Amazon S3 bucket or something. Cross-site scripting, that's when you put in JavaScript instead of normal text and it gets displayed as HTML and then it executes. Insecure deserialization. Perfect example was the Ruby on Rails exploit 2 weeks ago, I think. Using components with known vulnerabilities. If you use Ruby on Rails, and it's vulnerable to that. Insufficient logging and monitoring doesn't really pertain to bug bounties. So typical workflow. You're going to do tons of recon. First off, you need to find the scope. That will be listed in their program. And then you need to find all of the machines responding within the scope. So if you're Tesla and the scope is just wildcard.tesla.com, then you have at it. Like, they give you infinite scope and you can do whatever you want to try to find things. Yeah, no, I won't draw on the board yet. And then you got a poke DNS, so you need to find, that's part of finding all machines responding that are within the scope. And then find any low-hanging fruit, and then poke at their web apps. Bonus, if you were here for the reverse engineering talk, how can you put reverse engineering and potentially get money? Some programs exist for VLC, PuTTY, FileZilla, and many more like Notepad++. And they're all paid for by the European Commission. So if you just click on that link, you can see all of the things. And if you reverse something well enough and you find out, hey, there's a bug here, you can get paid for it. So finding scope. I will show you a lot of Starbucks examples because that is what I know the most, as well as Shopify, but yeah. So in scope, you have app.starbucks.com, and then lower down here, you just have wildcard.starbucks.com. So that means any subdomain that they have is within scope. I can probably open this, that's fine. Yeah, so it's just this huge list of all the things that are in scope. And then they even list their Android apps. So you could poke at those and you could try to find bugs in that. And everything listed as critical gets bounties. And then they just have this catch-all of, hey, if you find something with our name on it and it's vulnerable to something, please report it, which is really nice. Not all vendors do that. So we found their scope, and now we're going to do some recon on it. So we can use Shodan. You can search for an organization with Shodan. Cert.sh. I've never had it work for me, but some people really love it and it works for them. And then Google Dorking, just cite : in quotes starbucks.com. That'll give you every page that Google has indexed for starbucks.com. So poking DNS. This can potentially help you find subdomain takeovers. So what is a subdomain takeover? Check it out over there. That's a really good link. But essentially, a company has a CNAME pointing, this is what I'm drawing on the board. So let's say we have test.starbucks.com. I'll just .sb.com. And then, so if you were to run dig on this, then you will see that there's a CNAME pointing to, for example, test.trafficmanager.com. And this is responding with domain not found. So this is a perfect condition where you have test.starbucks.com points to test.trafficmanager.com, and test.trafficmanager.com doesn't exist. So you would notice Traffic Manager is Azure Cloud, so you can go register a instance on Azure Cloud of a traffic manager. Basically, they give you a box. You can type in, hey, I want test.trafficmanager.com, and Azure's like, cool, here you go. If it doesn't exist and no one else holds it. So then, if you have something registered at that, then Azure will publish an A record, and it'll be an IP address. So then, whenever someone browses to test.starbucks.com, they get redirected through the CNAME to test.trafficmanager.com, which resolves to whatever you control, because now you own test.trafficmanager. This link will do a way better explanation of it. So I would recommend that. It's a very quick read, actually. What's up?
How is this difficult for the company themselves to find? Because if that link is dead, then wouldn't going to starbucks.com just always take you to some, like a 404 or something?
So it's very easy for the company to do it. They just forget to. It's very easy for them to go through all of their DNS records. They have just this giant page of all of their DNS records, right? Have you been? Yeah, you've been in 230. So you know, like, there's just a config file somewhere. They can just audit that, and they could try running dig on every single one of those, and if it doesn't resolve, delete the record. But they just forget to. Starbucks has been way better about it recently.
Okay, so there's like a bunch of things you could get redirected to.
Yes. Yeah.
So you might get randomly directed to this one that one.
Yeah. Yep. So this whole of you need to find all of these subdomains, and then you need to run dig on all of them. That sounds really boring and tedious, right? Well, I released my script, so this will do it for you. Just install all of those programs, and it will run through billions and billions of subdomains. Jack saw a very fun one that I found recently. I will show it soon. So a nice byproduct of this script is you just have a massive list of all of the valid domains for this one organization. Also, this is still technically passive because you're only doing DNS queries. You aren't actually touching anything that Starbucks owns yet. So what do you do with this massive list? Run it through mass-scan. It's like Nmap, but on the internet scale. So you can run through tons of things very quickly. Don't try to run it on a VPS that doesn't allow it, because they will just cancel your service like mine last night. So once you have these domains, this giant list, after running mass-scan, you can run dirb, dirbbuster, Nikto. You need to find all of the things that are hosted on this. And if you run into any URLs, so dirb will just append a word list. So for this test.starbucks.com, it'll just append like /admin or /test, and it'll just run through a giant word list trying all of these things. And if anything responds back, then it tells you. So And if you find on /admin, maybe there's a 403 error, which is forbidden. Try using brute spray, Medusa, or Hydra to try and brute force some passwords, only if the organization allows this, or just try and throw it in Wayback Machine and see if anything was cached previously. So when I ran this on Shopify, this is a valid Shopify domain, and it is so long, and my script found it, and I'm very curious as to how it actually found it. But somewhere on the internet, it references that, and that is 100% a valid domain. No, I won't be able to.
Have you gone to it?
Yes. Jack accidentally mistyped it and said, "Did you mean?" And then it was. So that was good. It is valid. It's there's a CNAME to wc.shopify.com.
It's also worth pointing out, nobody's actually selling stuff from a Shopify site there. Like once it redirects you there, it just 404s or something.
Yeah.
But it's still like
It's still valid and it still resolves.
Yeah.
If that CNAME was pointing to something else like Traffic Manager, we could potentially take it over. But it's pointing to its own domain. But yeah. So you have all of these services, you know, all of the places where things are being hosted, like on /admin/test. What do you want to do? Well, for Starbucks or Shopify, they're just huge organizations. There's going to be thousands of responses. I think my Starbucks subdomain list is up to 15,000 different hosts. So you can just automate screenshots. And one of those tools is Eyewitness. So it'll go to every single one of those domains and take a screenshot of it. It'll try it with HTTP, HTTPS, VNC, RDP. It'll try everything. Shopify recently had an RDP thing open to the internet, and the password and username was admin, and that was like $1,000 for that person. So I was a little jealous about that. But if they're heavily into AWS, such as Starbucks or who's else? Tesla is very into AWS. You want to run AWS exploitation frameworks against it, such as Pacu. Pacu is very small known. I was on the beta for a while, but it's actually really good. So you give it that giant list that you have earlier, and then it'll check to see if there's an S3 bucket, which is Amazon something. It's public cloud storage, basically. And then Pacu will check and see if it's world writable. So if it's world writable, you could upload like c99.php on it, and boom, you have a web shell on whatever machine they have. S3 bucket finder, you can just give it a domain name, and then it'll try like dev.s3.starbucks.com or like test s3 blah blah blah, and it too will check to see if it's world writable. So run that massive list through Pacu or S3 bucket finder, see if you find anything. That's low hanging fruit. People have already probably found it. If you get invited to any private programs, you're more likely to find something just because there's less eyes on it. So deeper look. Now you got to poke at some web apps. Burp Suite is very handy. The community edition is all right, but the pro is much better, but it is also $350. Plugins are the name of the game with Burp Suite. There's one called Burp Vulner Scanner. It just checks for all of the versions that the server responds back with, either like jQuery, Ruby on Rails, Nginx, Apache, and it'll just run those through and check and see if there's any CVEs. It's a pretty easy win if there is a CVE, because then all you have to do is verify that that works, and then you can just say, hey, I found this, it's vulnerable to this, and I can get remote code execution this way. And that's usually a lot of money really quick. Cross-site scripting tips, if there's anything URL-based, run it through noxss.me. It is paid, but it's like $60 for 3 months of stuff with a browser plugin. So with the browser plugin, you just enable it and then you browse whatever website it is. And for every single form or every single URL that you click on, it'll try and get cross-site scripting through it. It has found it once for me, which was awesome, and it paid for itself that way. And then if there's form-based things, NoxXS will do it. Otherwise, Burp Suite or even Firefox can have you edit the form before sending, and then you can send it. Burp Suite, that's the proxy, the intercept. You can change things within the form and then send it on. So if they're doing client-side filtering, if you can just remove that filtering part by going through Burp Suite, and then you change it to include like HTML tags, usually you can find cross-site scripting that way. The remediation that they should do is server-side filtering and client-side filtering. And also computer E231, because that's kind of what we're doing in this week's lab, or last week's lab. And then if you want practice, the OWASP broken web app VM is just a VM where every single one of the 10 listed is implemented in a easy to learn and easy to recognize way. So where to find information? Here's a YouTube talk. It is an hour long. It is way better at this than I am, because that is Jay Haddix, and he is the #1 pen tester on Bug Crowd. And then if you want to write up about subdomain takeovers, I got very lucky with Starbucks. They paid for my tuition for 1 semester, so that was nice.
Wow.
Yeah. I was bored on a business trip in my hotel room, and so then I just started poking at it, and like 3 hours later I was paid out $4K, and I was like, wow, that was a nice night. So what can go wrong? This is when vendors don't like you, or when vendors see he made an English mistake in one of his things, just like everyone else, and then they decide not to pay you. So you can spend hours or days making a reliable exploit for the bug to be closed as won't fix, as its intended behavior, or if it's sandboxed. So then if you see the words, don't bother messing with the sandbox because it's secure, you think, sandbox is not secure then, right? So then you escape the sandbox after spending a few more hours, and they're like, wow, that seems really hard to fix. We're not gonna fix it. Also, because we aren't fixing it, you don't get paid. So don't go in expecting money, because it won't work out for you. Also, vendors they don't have to pay you. They can just be like, thanks for the submission, we'll close it as informative. Then they can patch the bug, and then they just don't pay you because it's not being closed as a valid bug.
What is a sandbox?
So this specific vendor had an iframe that was allowing scripts. So you can just, you can write JavaScript. Okay, let me back up and actually answer the question. A sandbox. You have the parent frame, and then you can have a little child frame or a little sandboxed iframe. So this should stop cross-site scripting. So if there's cross-site scripting within this thing, it should not affect this. So you can play in this little box without affecting the big box. So you play in a sandbox.
Gotcha.
Yeah. There's a lot of easy ways if they allow JavaScript where you can just do parent.document.whatever and then change the, just remove the sandbox altogether. And then document.reload, and now you're unsandboxed, and now you can run cross-site scripting on the parent frame. Yeah. That was probably really fast. I would recommend actually watching this video, the top one. Cool. Any questions? You want to see what it looks like when I try to get cross-site scripting somewhere? It just becomes, I probably already closed it. That's fine. Geez. I have it on mouse move, so now I can't move my mouse. Okay, so trying to do some Unicode escaping doesn't work. Basically, if you're finding cross-site scripting, you want to just find every place where you can input text and try and put HTML stuff.
What is Shopify?
Shopify is like a custom shop on Amazon, kind of, where you can just sell arbitrary items at arbitrary prices.
It actually goes through Amazon, or is it like Amazon?
It's like Amazon. They're a Canadian company, and they don't like me.
They keep trying to break their shit.
Yeah. So to them, this isn't a security concern. I don't know why. Because clearly this is cross-site scripting. It's in the known bugs and won't fix. And then you can just get it on many others as well. So if you notice, I just copy paste, this massive thing everywhere. And then at one point, it's gonna break something. And you will likely find cross-site scripting that way.
So, which way do you go? Do you do this everywhere and then check to see if they have a bug bounty, or do you go to the bug bounty?
You find the you find the people that host bug bounties and get their permission by signing up for the program, and then you go test things. Generally, they will send you credentials after you signed up. On HackerOne, they give you an email address, and then if you sign up with that email address, you usually get special permissions. Like Shopify generally costs money to set up a store. You can set up a store for free if you use your HackerOne email. It's just your username.
A plugin that did it,
Yes.
that did it everywhere then.
Yes, that is a paid plugin, but it's very good for the money, in my opinion. Yeah, it would see all of these, and then if you change something and then hit save, then on this form submission, it would try and do cross-site scripting in every single one of these. So one person actually ended up finding, if you added an image that was a SVG and it just had text in it, like alert 1, that would actually pop up. And that would be cross-site scripting. They've since removed the ability to use SVGs site-wide because of that.
Yeah, that's a good solution.
Yeah. Sure, we'll leave page. Yeah, I break things a lot, so it's fine. But yeah, you just copy paste things all over the place. You can do it intelligently. Like, there's a much better way of trying to figure this out. So if you do like inspect element, and then you find this specific one, you could see, oh, we should probably close the header 1 tag first before trying to add things. See if I can even, yeah. So you should close the header 1 tag and then things, but this is very well filtered, so it won't actually display it as HTML stuff. It'll display the actual characters. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm gonna stop.